The doctors stood silently around the examination table. In front of them, the body of a man with no name, no wounds, no signs of struggle. Every organ appeared congested, but there was no trace of poison, at least none they could identify. His stomach was empty. No food, no pills, nothing. It was as if someone had erased every clue about how he died. And as one of the coroners removed his gloves, another opened a small evidence bag containing the only thing found in his clothes, a tiny rolled-up piece of paper with just 2 words written on it. Tamam Shud. It's over. On the morning of December 1st, 1948, a group of people was walking along Somerton Beach, near Adelaide, Australia. Among them were a horse rider, a couple, and a young man jogging near the water. In the distance, they saw something strange, a man sitting against the seawall. As they approached, they noticed something chilling. He wasn't moving. The police were called, and as they examined the body, they found something unsettling. He had no wallet, no identification, not even tags on his clothes. Everything had been carefully removed. There were no signs of struggle or visible injuries. The only clue was an unused train ticket to Glenelg. But there was something else. Hidden in a small pocket of his trousers, investigators found a tiny rolled-up piece of paper. It contained just 2 words, Tamam Shud. These words come from an ancient Persian poetry book, the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, a work that speaks about fate and the fleeting nature of life. But this wasn't just any book. The page containing this phrase had been torn out. Months later, an anonymous man walked into a police station with an unexpected clue. He had found that same book in the back seat of his car. On the final page where Tamam Shud should have been, there was only a clean cut. It was the very book the paper had come from. But that wasn't all. On one of the pages, someone had scribbled a code, a series of seemingly random letters that, to this day, no one has been able to decipher. Medical examiners couldn't determine the cause of death. There were no signs of violence, no traces of poison in his system. However, his stomach was completely empty, and his organs appeared strangely congested. Some doctors speculated that he might have been poisoned with an unknown substance that decomposed quickly, leaving no trace. But if this was murder, who killed him and why? One of the most intriguing theories is that the Somerton man was a spy. During the Cold War, Australia was full of intelligence activity, and his strange code could have been a secret message. Some researchers believe he may have been poisoned with a top-secret substance used by intelligence agencies. His tagless clothes, the lack of fingerprints in databases, and the connection to a coded message all point to this possibility. There were even rumors that a nurse named Jessica Thompson knew him. It was said that her phone number was written in the Rubaiyat book, but when questioned, she refused to talk. Decades later, science attempted to solve the case. In 2022, a DNA analysis suggested that the Somerton man might have been Carl Webb, an electrical engineer who had gone missing. But does this really answer all the questions, or does it just leave us with more doubts? If he was Carl Webb, why did no one claim him? Why was he carrying a secret code? And how did he die? The case of the Somerton man remains one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. A man with no identity, a secret code, an inexplicable death. and a book with a phrase that suggests a definitive ending. Tamam Shud. Was this a crime? A hidden message? Or just a coincidence too perfect to ignore? The Sutter File. The only case that still makes me wake up at 3 a.m. with cold sweat running down my back. I've been in this for 40 years, but nothing prepared me for what we found that Christmas morning in 1945. A house consumed by fire, 5 empty beds, and 0 human remains. No bones, no teeth, not even the metal buckles from their shoes, as if the Sodder children had vanished before the flames touched them. They weren't there when the fire started. Someone took them. I heard them screaming. The fire escape ladder, cut, the telephones, sabotaged, and that damn threat that no one investigated. Your Italian children will burn like the traitors they are. This is the story that never appeared in the official newspapers, the one they made disappear along with those 5 children. That night, while the snow fell softly on the roof, the Sodders prepared for Christmas. The younger children, Maurice, 14 years old, Martha, 12, Louis, 9, Jenny, 8, and Betty, 5, had stayed up later than usual, excited for Santa Claus's arrival. Marion, the oldest, helped her mother in the kitchen, while the other siblings were already asleep. George, exhausted after a long day of work, had gone to bed early, but something woke him around midnight. At first, I thought it was the wind, he would recall years later, his voice broken by pain. But then the smell of smoke was so strong it burned my throat. I shouted for Jenny and ran upstairs. The flames already blocked the hallway. Marion jumped out the window with Sylvia in her arms. John and George Jr. managed to get out through the back. But when I counted the children, 5 were missing. Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty. They weren't there. I screamed their names until I lost my voice. The flames kept me from going in. Where were they? Why weren't they answering? Said George Sodder with tears in his eyes in an interview years later. The firefighters arrived too late. The house, mostly made of wood, burned quickly, but not enough to justify what came next. At dawn, while neighbors helped the family search through the debris, something was evident. There were no human remains. I searched through the ashes for hours, Jenny Sodder would recount, her trembling hands holding a photo of her children. I found melted coins, a piece of my mother's crockery, even the metal frame of a bed, but not a single bone, not one tooth, nothing. The doctor said a normal fire can't destroy a body completely. So where were my children? Said Jenny Sodder, her gaze lost in the void. But the anomalies didn't end there. The exterior ladder, which was always leaned against the house for emergencies, had disappeared. They found it thrown more than 20 meters away, as if someone had deliberately tossed it. The telephone wires had been cut with precision, making it impossible to call for help. The family car wouldn't start that night. Later, they discovered someone had disconnected the battery, and then there was the threat. A month before the fire, a stranger had knocked on the Sodder's door. He was a tall guy with an Italian accent, George would recall, his fist clenched. He told me, "Your house is going to burn, and your children are going to die. Fascists like you don't deserve to live." I thought he was a madman, a Mussolini fanatic. I slammed the door in his face. But now I wonder if I should have done more, said George Sodder bitterly. The local police closed the case quickly, declaring that the children had died in the fire and that their remains had been reduced to ashes. But the Sodders did not accept it. They hired a private detective who discovered something. The fire had not been hot enough to vaporize bones. It takes more than 1,600 degrees Celsius for several hours, and the fire lasted less than 45 minutes. Several witnesses reported seeing an unknown car near the house that night. A local funeral home worker admitted that he had been offered money to declare that he had seen human remains, when in fact he had seen nothing. George was a vocal critic of Italian fascism. Did someone decide to punish him by stealing his children? At that time, criminal networks kidnapped minors to sell them in illegal adoptions. George's former employee, whom he had fired, was seen lurking near the house days before. The Sodders never gave up. They put up billboards with photos of their missing children, offering rewards. They received anonymous letters, some mocking, others suggesting that the children were still alive. In 1968, a woman swore she had seen Martha working in a New York City brothel, but the lead led nowhere. George died in 1969 without answers. Jenny passed away in 1989, still waiting for her children to come home. Today, the lot where their house once stood remains empty, a silent reminder of a mystery that time has not been able to solve.